What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like Black Friday deals are starting to get out there, at least like the adverts that we could take a look at, and we have our first real look at some of the consoles and the sales that you can expect. Generally, when we start to see at least one come out, we can kind of start to gauge what, I guess, the going rate will be for Black Friday on systems. I also did a video on the games, so if you want to see a bit of information about which games will be which prices and which ones not to buy before Black Friday, check that video out on the channel. We also saw Terry, of course, join Smash, as a lot of us figured would happen, and interestingly enough, could Valve be launching their own streaming service that's integrated into Steam to maybe compete with Stadia? A lot of stuff to go over today, guys. As always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to like button. It does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. And we're going to start with Playtonic. We talked about them yesterday, and wouldn't you know it, when Newswave went up, they did start to actually put some information out there, and they even made a statement that you're seeing here. It says, "We wanted to address the speculation currently swarming our mentions. We hate to be the bearers of bad news, of news that isn't what you want to hear, but we thought it best to come out and say we aren't working on a new Banjo Kazooie game, and we remain an independent studio." They go on to say, hey, we're sorry, but that's just not happening, and it's kind of what I was figuring was going on. Most likely they are just hiring so that they can fill positions to then work on their next game. The Impossible Lair seems to be doing pretty well for them, at least within expectations to have the studio continue to function, so at least it looks like we could see a Yooka-Laylee 2 maybe? A sequel? That's what I'm thinking. I really think at this point, everyone just wants another Banjo Kazooie game so badly that people are willing to really dive deep on some of these posts on Twitter, Instagram, and everything. I'm hoping we do get a Banjo Kazooie game at some point. I'm not expecting it, like I said, at XO19, although that would be a cool spot to announce it. I really think XO is going to be a pretty, I would say, status quo, just overall convention. I wouldn't expect anything massive to come out of it, but the one thing that could happen there is maybe some new Scarlet details as we see PlayStation with the PS5 continuously go to Wired and do interviews and articles, so we'll see. Also, Famitsu posted some review scores yesterday, and one of them was for Death Stranding, and check this out. It got a perfect score. It got a 40 out of 40. That's the 26th perfect score they have ever given. And that's with Famitsu. That is that's a big deal, I would say. It's, man, the scores for Death Stranding are still all over the place. They're still coming in. Giant Bomb gave it kind of a lower score, and here comes Famitsu with a perfect 40 out of 40. We've seen seriously, this game, it has a bunch of perfect scores and it has some lower scores. It's all over the place right now, and I will admit Famitsu's scoring has been kind of strange, as we a lot of times will use like the 35 that Sonic Forces, I believe, got as like a barometer for how good a game is, just to see if it's like above or below that. So, hey, apparently Death Stranding, better than Sonic Forces. Also, a lot of people are starting to get their limited edition Nintendo Switch Lite that is like the Pokemon Sword and Shield one. It looks pretty neat. It's like kind of this, it's a bit darker with the gray than I thought it would be. Then of course it has the cover Pokemon etched into the back, and it looks neat. The color scheme was a bit off for me. I don't know. It's an interesting, I guess, color setup that they have for the different buttons on either side. Doesn't really click with me, but a lot of people are getting them. They like them. They ordered them through PlayAsia to get them a bit early, so they get the Japanese version of it. Otherwise, it does launch actually tomorrow. Yeah, it launches on Friday, so I guess you could pick it up there. Does not come with the game, so keep that in mind. As far as people like MVG who got one, he did mention that it does not actually include the game or anything, just a special edition Switch Lite. Well, it turns out they actually programmed something kind of neat into it. As you're seeing here, this is a picture of the screen that shows your controllers, or, well, the Switch Lite, and it looks like they went ahead and just programmed in the different colored buttons, which is kind of neat. I do know that the Super Nintendo controller that you can get from Nintendo does something similar to where the buttons are the correct color as what you're looking at, so it's like, you know, like purple or like the darker kind of black for the D-pad. So they are strangely detailing the controller icons a bit more, or the Switch Lite icons. It is nice to know that going forward, especially as we see, I mean, let's be honest, we're going to see some, I think, a ton of different Switch Lite revisions in terms of color schemes, and we're going to see all kinds of different models come out for special edition systems. Like an Animal Crossing one, I think it's a slam dunk, and that should happen. And hey, if it comes out and the buttons are green, you'll know most likely they will also be green in the menus. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's talk about Black Friday. That's, of course, coming up, the 29th of November. So it's like right at the end of November, as it's the Friday that follows Thanksgiving. Although now retailers pretty much just open on Thanksgiving. So it's Thursday. That's when you go shopping, I guess, now, currently anyway. Well, it looks like we at least have a look at some of the deals from Target, and they put out an entire spread. I think it was like 50-something pages, a lot of stuff to go over there. Not just games, they have all kinds of stuff, right? We've seen it, but the systems are kind of compelling, I would say, depending. Look, if you want like an Xbox One X, this might be one of the better deals. But if you want to Switch, it's really not any different. And I think a lot of it has to do with them not dropping the price on the Switch Lite. Obviously, it just came out, but it's really Nintendo not participating once again in Black Friday at all. Although, here's the thing, you can go there and you can get a Nintendo Switch with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just that comes with it. So they're basically throwing a game in. I assume it's the digital version. That's the same deal from last year. It's the only thing they did in the ad was they changed it from the neon Joy-Cons to the gray Joy-Cons in the ad. That was it. So still the same thing. Okay, Nintendo is just gonna, they're going to do their thing, I guess, and just not really participate into it. They're still going to sell Switch systems, so that's not a big deal. But like I said, check out the games in that video that I did yesterday. That has quite a few Switch games in there for very, very cheap, like $15 for some of them. But the PlayStation 4 will be on sale at a pretty good discount with games, and the Xbox One X will also be on sale at Target, which is pretty cool. So here's the advert that they put out, and you can see at the bottom, we do have the PlayStation 4 Slim. Comes with Last of Us Remastered, God of War, and Horizon Zero Dawn, the complete edition for $199.99. That's a pretty good deal, because usually we have the Slim, of course, sitting roughly at $300. You can, of course, find it on sale places, but this does come with a bunch of games, so that is a pretty good deal. The controllers are $40 for the PS4 or the Xbox One, with the Joy-Con controllers sitting at $60, although I have seen them pretty cheap at places like Walmart at times, where I think those will be like $67 or $68, so it is cheaper, right? But not that much cheaper necessarily. That PS4 Slim is pretty good. But let's take a look at the Xbox One X. That is $349.99, so $350, has a $40 gift card attached to it, and it looks like it comes with Gears of War 5. And an Xbox One X at $350, which is $150 less, is very good. That is a really good deal. Now, of course, next holiday, it's going to be time for Scarlet to come out, so I think a deep discount here from Microsoft makes sense. There are a few differences between the companies when it comes to something like Black Friday, though. See, Microsoft is different from Sony and from Nintendo in that they will give rebates to the retailers, and that's why I think we're seeing such a steep discount right now on the Xbox One X. That also more than likely will carry over, and you'll see other places doing heavy discounts on the Xbox One X as well. So while we're seeing this at Target, I wouldn't be shocked if Best Buy and Walmart had something very similar where it's $100 to $150 off their premium system, the Xbox One X. Not a bad time to pick it up if you're understanding that, well, in a year the Scarlet will be out, but maybe you're getting a 4K TV this holiday and you're thinking, well, I want a really strong system that I can get for a good price. $350 is not bad. Comes with Gears 5, and of course you could technically do Game Pass and just have probably more than enough games to cover you going over the next, I would say, year leading up to Scarlet. Next up, let's talk about Smash Brothers Ultimate, as Terry Bogard has now been released. He's available. You can go pick him up. You've probably already done that, though, because they had their huge direct/presentations last live stream with Sakurai, who took quite a while going over the Neo Geo. You could tell that he really, really liked the Fatal Fury series, the King of Fighters series. He just liked the Neo Geo a ton. And based on Terry, yeah, it looks like he spent quite a bit of time working on him, making sure all the little details are right, and giving him some pretty cool features and moves. But like I said, most likely you've probably already picked him up. On top of that, there are new spirits that were added. The version 6.0.0 dropped, adding a ton of balancing for different characters. 50 tracks. Soundtrack, yeah, that's insane. 50 new tracks added as well. Yeah, Sakurai might like King of Fighters Neo Geo a little bit, I would say, right? It's pretty cool to see that. And then, of course, a new stage kind of themed around the King of Fighters. So this is this is pretty cool to see all of this kind of happen. However, there were some interesting things that took place on the stream, with the biggest one being, about Mai. Now, in that stream, Sakurai says that Mai unfortunately could not be added because Smash Bros. Is for good boys and girls, more or less referring to Mai possibly not fitting in with Smash when it comes to the Sarah rating. In fact, as you're seeing here, it looks like that is the case. This is from Kaiserwave saying, reminder, Sakurai doesn't mention good boys and girls in the Japanese version of his Smash reveal. He specifically mentions they couldn't add her in order to keep the Sarah A rating, which of course like an E10 plus rating, basically like an E for everyone type thing. And yeah, Mai might get in the way, although they could have maybe had a different outfit, right? That's possible. I think maybe Sakurai just didn't want to touch that because, well, if he gives her a different outfit, some of the purists or the fans of the original King of Fighters, Neo Geo, and Fatal Fury, all of that stuff, they would not be happy. And Sakurai is definitely about getting things, all the details correct. So, okay, I guess technically if they added her, maybe they'd have to do something with the Sarah rating, as he himself has said here. However, Terry seems pretty neat in Smash. People are really enjoying playing as him. He seems pretty strong according to a lot of people. And it'd be interesting, again, according to some people who spend much more time in Smash than I do, how it will go over with the pros and to see if Terry can kind of hold his own in some of those circuits. Next up, let's talk about Deep Down. I thought this was over. We had seen so many trademarks here and there about it, and since the original reveal, I'm not even kidding, the original reveal of the PlayStation 4 back in 2013, February 2013, yeah, it's been over 6 years, we haven't really seen much. I think they had a bit of gameplay, but really it's disappeared. A lot of us just figured it was canceled, but then they keep trademarking the thing. We've talked about it. We said, wow, maybe Deep Down isn't gone, and it's not. But it kinda is. It's shelved for now. And there was an interview with Eurogamer from Capcom, and this is what they said. The original team is clearly no longer together at this point, but people might have noticed that we've kept the trademark registered, and it's not completely given up on. Every year we examine titles we're doing in future, and we bring up projects to approve and move forward. There's not much I can say about it, but if you've noticed we've kept the trademark, it means we haven't given up on the title completely, and that is Capcom's Yoshinori Ono talking to Eurogamer. And yeah, they keep doing the trademark probably because they look at it occasionally and they say, wouldn't it be neat if we did something with Deep Down? We don't necessarily want to give it up because people do know what Deep Down is, kind of. They might have forgotten about it, but that could get one of those big reactions at an E3 or a Tokyo Game Show. Or, hey, maybe Capcom has their own live stream out. Nowadays, all the companies are doing this, but it is something that could work going forward if they decide to do it. Capcom just has to be a bit more careful, I think, about which games they decide to work on, and Deep Down at least looked like it had some work done to it, but the original team not being around anymore, maybe they would have to, I guess, get a new team together or go in a completely different direction with it. However, I do think at this point, it was shown on the PS4 unveiling stage. It probably won't be a PS4 game if they decide to eventually do it. It'll most likely be a PlayStation 5 game in the future, if they end up even doing it. I don't know, but who knows? Who knows what Capcom will ever do with it? It is interesting that it keeps coming up in conversation. They keep registering the trademarks. I almost feel like they don't want to let it go for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they did spend a lot of time on it, but who knows? Maybe someday they'll flash Deep Down on screen and we'll finally see it come out. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about game streaming with Steam. Possibly. This is an interesting situation. This was a tweet that was put out by Steam Database saying Valve is working on Steam Cloud Gaming according to partner site Code Update. Partners will need to sign an addendum to their terms. Could this be a competitor to Google Stadia? So game streaming in general is trying to take off in some way. It's basically trying to provide the game to someone who doesn't have a system or means to play it, whether it's a decent PC or a PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, a Switch maybe, something, I don't know. But that is the strategy, right? Is to remove that barrier of a system or expensive hardware and just give them the game, as long as they have a decent enough internet connection and a data cap that won't, hit you after like a terabyte like Comcast attempts to. But this would be an interesting shakeup in game streaming, I think, if Steam, which is a very large, everyone knows Steam, right? And you necessarily may have Steam installed on non-gaming PCs even at this point, and if they have the ability to flip a switch and all of a sudden that game on your computer that you don't even have installed just comes up and says, play with streaming, they might have something there. I think that's their thought process, is they might be looking at kind of the machines that people are installing Steam onto for communication, friends list, shopping even. And they kind of look at that and say, well, you might not have the best PC, but you can still run it as long as you're connected to the internet. Red Dead Redemption 2 just came out, and that thing struggles on everything at this point. So what if they had these, super powerful servers that could run it really well, and all you had to do on your your terrible little netbook is just hit play and it's working? That might be a strategy Valve has considered, and the fact that they control Steam, and basically they would flip a switch and all of these potential customers would just exist right away for their streaming service, which might end up boosting, in general, subscription services, right? If they end up charging like Stadia is for premium options with 4K, and well, their market would probably see a boost in sales, as well as all of a sudden people who couldn't originally play something like Red Dead can now do that. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Twisted Soul, saying, you can download the PS4 games. Why would you stream them when you can just download all from PS Now except PS3 games? And that mostly goes back to PlayStation Now also working on PC. I'm starting to realize not a lot of people know that you can do that. If you have a DualShock 4 and just a PC or a laptop, you can just hook it up and play that there. It works. It's not great, but it does work. You can also do remote play, of course, from your PlayStation to your PC. It's an interesting thing that this is starting up now with Sony, and I think a lot of people aren't realizing it necessarily because they see Sony as, of course, only offering games on their PlayStation, but right now, things like God of War, they're playable. Infamous are playable on PC. It's not ideal. It's 720p, and it does struggle at times with buffering, but it is there, so you could try it in a pinch. You could do PlayStation Now and play it. But that's why people are looking at streaming as well. You can just download all of them on your PS4. I mean, I have PlayStation Now, and I've done that for a few games, including PS2 games, so keep that in mind. But yeah, you'll see PlayStation Now, I think, really start to pick up steam going into next gen, as Sony may even try, I'm going to say this now, might try some day and date releases on PlayStation Now to help push it. We'll see. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's the Black Friday deals on those systems. Are you going to just pull the trigger on one of these systems and grab one, even though we're roughly a year out from next generation? I mean, maybe they're just cheap enough now to do that. You'll have to let me know about that one. What about Terry in Smash? Did you already grab him? Have you been using him? Let me know how he plays in Smash. And then deep down, is it ever going to come out, or is that just going to be a pipe dream forever, right next to Scalebound? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.